Hell no, you can't go to the bathroom. You know where you can go? The fuck to sleep.
If you'd be so kind, would you mind introducing yourself for the podcast?
I'm Morgan. I play drums and organ and do a little bit of singing.
My name is Nicholas. I play bass and I do the rest of the singing.
And together we are
Bedtimemagic.
And how would you describe the music that you make?
real loud rock and roll, I guess.
I say trash rock, but the best description of our music I've heard is Morgan said that when he talks with sort of the older generation, like say grandparents or family members, he says, you know the Who? You know the end of Who songs? Imagine just that without the rest of the song.
A friend of mine used to describe very fast music as the ending to every Jay Leno intro.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's kind of what we do.
Yeah.
Less of the song, more just the end of the song.
And where are you guys based?
We're based out of Allston, Massachusetts, which is pretty much Boston, Massachusetts. It is Boston, Massachusetts. Just begins with a letter before it.
It's Boston when you're outside of Boston, but it's Allston when you're inside Massachusetts, right?
You got it, buddy.
Yeah.
Well, technically, Allston is one of the neighborhoods of Boston. So
Okay.
we're in Boston.
Let's go over the history of the band. How did you guys meet, and what made you decide to make music together?
Well, there's several different avenues. I used to work at a coffee shop that's been in the Boston area for, 30 years. And there was a guy that came in. We called him the High Five guy. He would come in every week, usually multiple times a week, and he would high five literally every member of staff. Like, we would call the people up from downstairs that were working in the office, the people that were doing cooking, and they would high five this dude. And then a while later, I put up an ad saying that I was looking to start a band, and I put some influences. And this dude reached out to me, and we met up and played together. I'm like, oh my God, you're the High Five guy. So that was Morgan.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, I don't know, anything you want to add to that? I mean, that's what.
No, I mean, that's basically it. We both have been in bands previously, and some of our old bands had played shows together, but like we only sort of knew each other in passing, not like we weren't old friends prior to
No. And we've been in the same place at the same time several times besides the coffee shop, but yeah, just didn't realize that each other played music.
So why did you decide that High Five guy was the guy that you wanted to be in a band with?
Yeah. Wouldn't you? He's the high five guy.
So Nicholas had put up like an ad on like Craigslist, like, you know, that he was looking, you know, he listed like a bunch of, you know, bands that he liked and like sort of stuff he was interested in and bands that he played in. So I sent him a message because I had like recently stopped playing in the band I had been playing with for a few years. And so we got together and like played once. I think I knew like the sort of the first time we practiced, like we were just like sort of jamming, trying out different stuff, and like it seemed like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
He had some good ideas. I think I had some good ideas.
You had some. I mean, I had a song that I had written. It's a song we have, CPAP, that's on the Easter Bloodhound split. And I had that riff, and I had imagined it was just like a standard 4/4 beat. And he came in and was doing this kind of like bop, 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 and I was like, see, that's cool, man. That can challenge me. I can do different stuff when that comes on. So we had that jam, and we were like, yeah, this works out pretty well. Let's just do this.
And how clear of an idea did you have of what kind of music you wanted to make?
You know, it's funny that you should ask that. I'm sure Morgan's answers differently. I had originally, I mean, ever since I first heard Man is the Bastard, I was like, I want to do something that sounds like this. And I bought a Rickenbacker so I can make this like crunchy, kind of primitive sound. But then the minute I heard him play, I was like, whatever this dude's ideas are like, that's what I want the band to sound like. Because he's got these ideas that I don't think of. And that, to me, that's a joy, because you want to be able to challenge yourself. You want to be able to always be writing outside of what you do at home, or writing outside of what you did for the past 20 years. So what would you say for you, Morgan? What kind of...
Yeah, sort of the same. I don't think I had any like real like, I really want to play in a band that sounds like this specific thing. I think I've sort of always, because I play the drums and like typically write like only a small amount of the music, you know, I've sort of always been at the mercy of like the other folks that I play with, you know.
Well, plus you've never been like, I want to write a song that sounds like this. You've always been like, oh, I got this beat, or I was listening to this old record and there was something that caught my attention.
Yeah. So it's much more like just sort of take it as it comes, and like, you know, like Nicholas comes in with an idea and then I'll put it like a beat to it, and it's usually, I think, different than what he had been
I would say
expecting.
most of the time, yeah.
But I think between, you know, like the two of us combining our stuff, we end up making stuff that sounds pretty cool. Does that answer your question? Does that make any sense?
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned Man is the Bastard. I'm just going to get this out of the way. Please don't take offense to this, but when I hear...
I'm so offended already.
When I hear... You know somebody is going to be disrespectful when they say, no disrespect intended. But no disrespect intended, when I hear about a two-piece from New England, which is a bassist and a drummer playing noisy rock, the first thing that comes to mind is lightning bolts.
There you go.
Do you get that a lot?
You know, we don't. I kind of wish we would, but we don't. I mean, Brian Chippendale is amazing. Dude, both of them. Both the Bryans.
Both Bryans are pretty amazing.
Yeah, so that's a compliment, if anything. You know, yeah, it doesn't come up a lot. We haven't played together. We're friends with a band from Wisconsin called Nasty Boys, and they have a lightning bolt feel, so that kind of bridges the gap. But, I mean, aside from that, we haven't really crossed paths.
Those guys are great. I'm cool with sounding like them. I don't think we try and sound like them. Nah, but, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Very nice people, too. I played a bunch of old bands that I was in, played shows with them a long, long time ago.
Yeah, it's such a small area. I mean, you see them on the street or like at Dell's Lemonade, but if you're in Rhode Island, but...
Yeah.
The band is called Bedtimemagic. You've got song titles like Wake-Induced Lucid Dreaming and an album called Pillow Talk. Is there a theme behind the band? Is there like an overarching concept?
I mean, not really. What do you...
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah. So the idea was sort of tongue-in-cheek. You know, I came up with a name, and... Right, it's like a double entendre or whatever. There's actually... so there in Boston, there's been a very long time running radio program, Bedtime Magic. Magic is like It plays like smooth adult contemporary music.
Richard Marx, Bryan Adams, Kenny G.
And the Bedtime Magic program is like, they play like, you know, like it's supposed to be very low key. And so, you know, sort of thinking about that program, that we don't really, we play sort of music that is opposite of that. Also thinking sort of along Bedtime Magic, you know, could imply like perhaps, you know, sex. You know, so we sort of keep that theme going, but, you know, often the song titles are only sort of vaguely describing what it is that we're talking about.
Yeah, and I mean, most of the song titles have some, like, other reference going on in them, but there's a lot of jokes that just Morgan and I would get, or sometimes just even me, which doesn't help anyone.
So in November of last year, you guys released Pillow Talk. Is this considered your first album? Because I know you have a bunch of releases before that.
To the world, yeah. I mean, I always think of our first record as Extra Firm, but it was like a demo tape. So it didn't even come out on tape. It was just like MP3s. And then the Knockover City split was after that. And then we had just like this period where we were writing and didn't record all that much.
So, yeah, it's sort of our first record. It's the first thing that's like, we've had a couple things that have had physical copies. Like we've made like cassette tapes, and you know we made that split 10-inch record.
Oh yeah,
but
yeah.
It's like the first sort of long or longer playing record that like had a, you know, like you can get it on vinyl as well as, you know, on the internet or whatever.
Like 7/10 of those songs have been around with us since like basically the beginning. Waking Dream was one of the first songs we wrote, and Dirty Sheets we wrote originally for the Knockover City split, but then there's stuff that we wrote for that record, like Long Kiss Goodnight, Warm Milk, Old Mattress. So I don't know. You know, from an outsider's perspective, yes, that's your introduction to the band. From our perspective, it was the culmination of a bunch of years of doing different things and then saying, okay, let's put this down on vinyl and get this out there.
The album was recorded by Andrew Schneider, who people listening to this podcast will probably know through his work with bands like Unsane, Cave-In, Verge probably. How did you decide to record with Andrew?
Well, it's funny. It was like different avenues, but the same end results. When I was 14, I worked at the Robbins Library in Arlington, and this girl was like, "You like weird hardcore music? You should check out this band, Slug Hog." And back then, piracy wasn't quite what it is today, so I was like, "Okay." And I saved up my money, and I went to the local record store, and I got a copy of Slug Hog's record, Grit. And I was in love with the fact that it was weird. It's 2 bass players and then a guitar player that technically isn't a member of the band, but he is because he's like playing all the time. Well, Andrew Schneider was in that band. He was one of the bass players. And then Morgan's known him, right, for a bunch of years.
Yeah, I actually used to share so Andrew is from the Boston area, and I used to share a practice space with him like 20 years ago or so. And I was also a big fan of his band, Slug Hog. And he after that, he was in a band called Barbaro.
Wait, he was in Barbaro?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So like he's an old friend, super talented guy, and we were like talking about folks who we would want to record with, and like his name came up, and yeah, we were real psyched to work with him. Like he's very good at his job and a very nice person to work with.
Yeah, and when we got to New York, we were outside a studio waiting for him to come by because he was taking, the subway or whatever. And I said in my head, don't mention Slug Hog. Don't bring up Slug Hog. Like, don't be that fanboy. And then literally the minute I saw him, I was like, Slug Hog!
Cool. Tell me a little bit about the recording of this album. To what extent were you trying to replicate your live sound?
Completely. 100%. And that was another reason we went with Andrew Schneider. We are a live band. Like, I roll around on the floor. Morgan's playing organ with his foot, and he's drumming on this huge drum kit. Like, we're really a band that you want to go see. And I think part of the reason we put off putting out a record like that for so long is because we just didn't want to make something that sounded like a record. Morgan explicitly said to Andrew, like, we want this to sound like we do live. And I think he captured that. I mean, he used weird techniques to do it because you have to, but I think he got that down. Like, I was locked in a room with like 2 amps, and there was like 3 amps in the room next door, and it was 100 degrees. But it allowed me to get feedback without having to overdub the feedback. I could just do it right there and then because I was 6 inches from my amp. I mean, right, Morgan, that was like your thing. Like, let's get the way that we sound live.
Yeah, I didn't want to make a record that, because there's only the 2 of us, I didn't want to make a record that we would never be able to pull off live. I wanted to make a record that it was the songs as we play them, basically. And I think we did it. I think we were successful.
How would you compare the recording to your previous recordings?
It's like the best thing we've done.
Yeah. Working with Andrew was really great. He's a really nice guy. He's real good at his job. Like, he works very quickly. I don't think we haven't had any really like negative recording experiences.
Oh no,
but
no.
We've definitely done a lot of like sort of like working with our friends who like will record stuff sort of in their spare time, but like they do it as a hobby kind of thing.
Yeah.
So like working with somebody who like that's his job.
And understands the sound, kind of pioneered the sound around here. So
yeah.
I mean, there wasn't a lot of, like, noise rock definitely had its place in the Boston area, but there wasn't a lot of bands that were willing to just be as ridiculous as Slug Hog was, or really, I mean, there was other bands too. Like, what was that band with the clown? Nightstick?
Oh, they were fucking horrible. They were horrible.
But they were weird.
There was a lot of stuff going on at that era. But yeah, and Andrew's actually in this band called Pigs with Curran, who was in the Unsane, and Jimmy Paradise, who was in like Players Club and Hell No, and like Pigs is a very, very good band if you're unfamiliar with them.
Really good continuation of the sound.
Was it challenging capturing your sound? Because I imagine a lot of the recording process means getting rid of noise, but noise is a big part of who you are.
You got it, man.
Yeah, how do you capture chaos? How do you capture noise? and still have it be...
I mean, part of that is trying to keep the way that Morgan and I are interacting still, vivacious and fresh and not sequester us. Like, we don't like to do it where the drums get recorded and then the bass gets recorded and then the that process feels very inorganic. So it was nice. Like, we did it live style. I was in that drum room. I was in that little room with all the amps, and then Morgan was outside that room so I could see him. So when he did something like, A Long Kiss Goodnight, the second time the verse comes up when he goes, dun, 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 like, I could do that with him. I could see him doing that and say, okay, I'm going to do that too. So I think that's part of it, keeping it fresh, letting us play off one another, knowing what the sounds we want the amp. It doesn't hurt the fact that Andrew had access to, like, literally a wall of amps. Like, I was plugged into, like, a couple $1,000 high watt, couple oranges before they went solid state with everything. Like, some really nice equipment, but it's equipment that's very responsive too. Equipment that, like, when you play a certain way will respond to what you're doing. Yeah, you use your own kit. That was cool.
Yeah, and we play really fucking loud.
Yeah, you got to know where to put the mics. Otherwise, you're just going to be fighting us the whole time with the mics. Because you're right, a lot of times in the recording process, if you put a mic, like, too close, it blows out, and then the whole recording sounds like...
The album was released by Nefarious Industries. Tell people who Nefarious Industries are and how they got involved with this release.
It's a secret you can never know, ever. No, it's Greg from, what is it, a fucking Elephant? Pretty sure that's his band. And then El Drugstore. And those guys team up and just throw money at dudes that they like that have weird things, like Tovarish from Rhode Island, who's fantastic. Their own bands. I'm trying to think of other bands that are on the label.
Those are gnomes.
Yeah, those are gnomes.
With 2 axes.
Yep, yeah.
Yes, they put out a lot of pretty neat stuff.
Cinema.
Yeah, so we basically, right, we sent them a message, right?
Yeah, I sent them, I had seen some of that stuff, and I was like, they're weirdos, they'll probably like us.
Right, so we sent them a message, and we had already recorded, and we had like some ideas of folks who might want to put out their record, but like that, none of those were really happening. So, we sent those guys a message just like, hey, we have this record, like, here's some of the songs, like, what do you think? Are you interested? And they were. So and Greg's, they're like real nice folks, really easy to work with, and like, we had basically, the record was ready to go. They just, like, needed to put some money at it so we could get it pressed. So that's what we did.
a couple of weeks ago, you released a remix of your song "The Long Kiss Goodnight" by Kid Taco. How did this remix come about?
Kid Taco. Kid Taco. Can I reveal his person, who he is? Does he want it to be a secret? I feel like he doesn't want it to be a secret.
I don't think he cares.
Okay. Well, it's Johnny Jimenez, and he was in like Jack Burton versus David Lopan and a bunch of other bands. So we've known him for a bunch of years, and he started doing this as a solo project. You know, we all have kids. Like Morgan's got your kid's 3, right?
No, me too.
He's 2. I always think he's older than he is. My daughter's 4. Johnny's daughter's 4. And for Johnny, he doesn't play as much now. He spends a lot of time with his kid, and he started the project and was doing recordings with her. And they're fantastic. You should check them out. Like, she sings and he plays guitar and stuff. But then he got weird, and he remixed the Knockover City record. It's Bad Dude, and he changed it to It's Rad Dude, I think. And it's awesome. I mean, it's so different than the original. And Morgan had heard it and liked it, and I had heard it and liked it, and he was complimenting Pillow Talk, and I was like, you should remix one of our songs. And so he took all the stems from our recording session and built that, and it's weird as hell. It's like 2 songs in one.
Did you give him any direction, or did he just take it wherever?
No.
No.
We were pretty excited that he was interested in doing it, and so like we were just like, do whatever you want, man. Like,
yeah, get crazy with it, get jiggly with it.
Yeah, and we were pleasantly surprised by the outcome.
Yeah. I don't know how he does that stuff, man. I try making stuff at home all the time, and it ends up sounding like freaking doo-doo. But you did a good job.
I'm going to have to ask you about your outfits.
Oh, I thought you were going to say I'm going to have to ask you not to say doo-doo.
Feel free to say doo-doo as many times as you want, but we still do have to talk about the outfits.
Doo-doo. So here's the thing about the outfits. Every story with Bedtime Magic starts like this. So Morgan came up to me with this idea, and at first I was like, absolutely not. But then as time went on, I said, okay, fine. And then people loved it, and then I had to tell Morgan that he was right and I was wrong.
I'm always right.
Yeah. I mean, the same thing with Bedtime. I wanted a band name that was like Crunchy Death Squadron or something, and he was like, what about Bedtime Magic? And I was like, no! But I actually really like the name now. And the same thing, I like to wear like clothing where I can move around. And he goes, you ever thought of wearing a wrestling singlet? And I go, ha ha ha, no. And then like a week later, he's like, here, I got us wrestling singlet.
Yeah. And Nicholas was pretty dead set against it initially because, you know, like they are fairly revealing outfits, and
So we should describe the outfits to the listener. I mean, people can look you up on YouTube and see you guys performing in these outfits. But as you said, the wrestling singlets, they are extremely tight, body conforming, I guess it's called.
Yeah.
They're flesh colored, so it kind of looks like you're naked.
Yes.
And there are giant maxi prints of pugs on them.
Yeah, it's a gigantic pug face on the front and on the back. Oddly enough, with it being like flesh colored, when I ordered them through the mail, and when I got them, I was standing in my front hallway. I got the package and I was super excited, so I wanted to try one on. You know, so I like stripped down and I put one of the outfits on, and as I'm standing like right next to my front door, my wife came home from work, and she opened the door and sort of like took a look at me and like just sort of stared at me for a second and was like, hold on, and like stepped back out of the door and closed the front door, and then like 2 seconds later like walked back in, and she's like looking at me, she's like, I don't really know where to like put my eyes exactly. Can you sit down for a minute? Because I guess when she first walked in, she thought I was naked, which like she's seen me.
Any wife would be offended by seeing her husband naked.
Right. I mean, she's seen me naked before, obviously, but you know, like it's not every day that she comes home that I'm standing naked right in the front doorway. But then when I wasn't naked and there was like there's this gigantic pug face.
Cognitive dissonance
right.
At that point.
Like she didn't know that they were coming. I hadn't described them to anybody. I had just like, I decided that that's what we needed to do.
Yeah, I didn't know there was going to be a giant dog face on it. But we kept with it. And you know why we kept with it is, one, he's right. It actually, once you get the hang of them, you can move around a lot more. But two, I think it makes people put their guard down because the lyrics are for most of the songs are pretty serious. And I feel like a lot of times when you see loud, like, raucous bands and they're singing serious stuff, they're like, come on, motherfucker, let's do this shit. And it's just like, calm the hell down. Like, you still got to go home at the end of the day. One day you're going to be, you know what I mean? You got to go to work throughout the week. Like, it's just, try to be a human being. So that's what kind of why we wear them too, is it gets people to just relax a little bit and meets them on the same level. So,
you know, like what we're doing is fairly serious, but we don't take ourselves all that seriously. If that, you know.
Yeah, we're never going to ask you to start a pit.
I don't know if Nicholas, like, we often play with bands that, like, are sort of pretending to be tough.
Yeah.
Or, you know, like, I think it's a thing that happens a lot with the music that we play, that people sort of put on this, like, tough act. And, like, we're not tough. You know, like, we're wearing, we got dog outfits on.
Who's, like, tough at the end of the day, you know? We all go to bed at night, so. Whoa, that's deep, man. You just got some bedtime magic on your podcast.
So what is the reaction when you guys show up on stage dressed as what we described?
I usually finish setting up before him, and I take my pants off first. And people always, even if they know what we're doing, think that I'm just, like, straight up taking my pants off, like nothing underneath. Because I always hear somebody go, woo, or like, ah.
Right.
It's also kind of, so he gets the luxury of sitting down with it, which creates a pocket of air around your genitalia. I don't. And when we first started playing with them, it's, you know, when you're in the woods and you find 2 dry sticks and you try to start a fire that way, it feels like that unless you wear a protective layer underneath. So I ended up having to wear a protective layer, but then it looks like I'm, like, doing a whole, you know, Robert Plant thing with, like, squash. I don't stuff. It's a protective layer. So there's a number of things that are unpredictable and somewhat, you know, offensive to certain sensibilities. But yeah, I think it gets people into it. And we're also, you know, somebody said to us when we went down to Pennsylvania, when I saw you guys in those suits, I thought these guys better deliver, and I'm glad that you did. And I was like, oh, that's a big compliment. So I think.
Yeah. So, I mean, generally people laugh. I'm sure that there's some folks have, like, walked out and decided not to see us, you know, like, because of how we look. But I think for the most part, like, people laugh and they end up having a good time.
Besides the outfits, dogs feature prominently in most of your album artwork, as well as a few of your band photos. What's the dog connection? Why the dogs?
Well, do you like dogs?
I do.
Yeah, me too. That's it.
That's it? Okay.
I mean, we were just
All right.
like, yeah, that's pretty much it. We said, you know, what are we going to do for the imagery? And then we were like, well, we both like sex and food, but those are kind of overdone. Right. And he was like, we both like dogs. Okay, let's do dogs.
Right. We wanted to, like, with a lot of things in this band, we like to sort of keep themes going. You know, I think it, like, adds, like, sort of another challenge for us, like, to work creatively within a framework. So, like, you know, so, like, we like, you know, all of our song titles are of a theme, all of our artwork is sort of a theme, and people like dogs. We like dogs, and we figured.
And you admitted you like dogs on the podcast.
Right. So
you can't take that back.
Yeah.
Who doesn't like dogs, though?
That, we might sell some T-shirts, even to folks who don't.
Which we do.
Yeah, we definitely have sold some shirts to folks who, like, maybe weren't super into our band, but really liked, like, the picture of the dog that was on our T-shirt.
What's your favorite type of dog?
Ooh, okay. Mine, honestly, and it doesn't. This is my dirty little secret. Terriers. I love terriers. All the terriers. Scotties, Cairn, Highlands. Terrier fan. If you put me in a room, cover me with terriers, and just leave me there.
So I have a dog she's a rescue, so we don't totally know what she is, but she's, like, definitely sort of bulldog, pit bull sort of mix. So she's very, like, short and squatty. and I like her breed of dog. Like I think I tend to like French bulldogs or like bulldogs, like sort of muscly little dogs.
She's not going to hear this. You can say whatever you want.
She's beautiful.
Yeah, she is. But you don't have to worry about her feelings.
And we used to take her to like training, you know, like obedience school for dogs. So, you know, like teaching her like how to walk on a leash and how, you know, how to sit and stay and all of that. And there was a dog that was always there at the training place that was like a Rhodesian Ridgeback that I is like perhaps the most handsome dog I've ever seen. Like it was just a beautiful, beautiful dog. How its personality was, it seemed nice enough. I didn't really know it, but like just like looking at it was like it was a stunning dog.
So you like Rhodesian Ridgebacks?
They're really neat looking. Like this dog in particular was just like a very, very nice looking dog.
So poodles. You like poodles?
I actually don't tend to like poodles.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like pretty much any
like
breed of
poodles.
dog. I think if people like treat their dogs nicely and like while they're
Oh yeah, any dog could be a good dog.
yeah, I think any breed of dog is a good dog. I just want to pet them.
Okay, so I just googled Rhodesian Ridgeback.
Is it cool?
And that is a very nice looking
Is
dog.
it?
It is. It is
I
very
can't.
cool.
My
looking, yeah.
phone's not capable of doing two things at once, so I just have to believe you on this.
Yeah, the hair on the back, like actually
The
like,
ridges, yeah.
it grows in the opposite direction, like down their spine.
Yeah, I've seen the other Ridgebacks. What are they, Norwegian Ridgebacks or something?
Maybe. I don't know. They're very handsome dogs. Though. What's your favorite breed?
You know, this is a boring answer, but I've always liked Labradors.
That's a boring answer. They're great
But I
dogs.
think
Yeah, they're really great. You know, I think Labradors a lot of times will give you the lean. Like they'll walk up to you and they'll like lean against your leg,
Yeah.
like because they want you to pet them or whatever. And like, I think that breed of dog more than any other gives me the lean, and I like getting the lean from a dog.
Song idea. Right before a breakdown, music stops, and I go, "What's your favorite breed?" And then we're like, dun, dun. All right, maybe not. I don't know.
before I let you guys go, tell me what you have planned. What's next for you guys?
We're going to play this Friday, which is January 24th, 2020. We're going to play in Manchester, New Hampshire at the Ukrainian American Hall. And what else? We have a show...
March 30th, Charlie's Kitchen, Ox, that's on the same label as us. They're flying over from Denmark. That's going to be awesome.
And Machinist, right there?
Yeah, Machinist from Georgia. Georgia. And then April 17th, Nasty Boys is finally coming out to the East Coast. So we're going to finally get to play with them after years of amping each other up through the interwebs. And we got a split coming out with Greylock. Greylock is another two-piece from Massachusetts. Looking for a label domestically for that. It's getting put out in Europe on... I don't know. Mike from Greylock found the label for the Europe distribution, so I don't know. But I do know if you're in Europe, you will definitely get access to it. So, and that's it. We're gonna go down to Pennsylvania again sometime in the spring or summer. I don't know. That's all we got on the radar.
Pillow Talk is out now through Nefarious Industries.
Yeah.
Tell people how they can order this.
So if you go to Bedtime Boston, that's all one word, .bandcamp.com, you order it, Greg ships it to you. And then eventually we get some kind of percentage on the back end, and you get a copy of the record. Morgan's like shaking his head. He's like, I don't know. People get it somehow. You can buy it from us at shows. I have it right next to me. Here, I'll tap it against the phone so you can hear it. See, that's the record right there.
It sounds like you tap it on a phone.
Yeah.
Rather than play it in a...
Yeah, you really want to put on a record player. It sounds so much better. So those are your options. You can listen to digitally. We chose to do it on vinyl because it's just got this nice compressed guitar quality to it. So that's hot to trot. Yeah, there's that. And other records are available there too.
Tell me about the vinyl. Did you guys do any special editions or anything like that?
We didn't. What we wanted to do originally was a picture disc. Did you know picture discs are only made by a couple companies and they're insanely expensive? And we didn't realize that. And then when we found out, we wanted somebody to do that, and nobody wanted to go bankrupt putting out a picture disc. So Morgan came up with the idea, what if we put the picture of a picture disc on a regular record? So when you open the record, you don't have a picture disc, you just have a record. And we're like, oh, that'll be a good compromise. So that's the cover art for.
It's on like natural colored vinyl, so it's like it's undyed vinyl, so it's like sort of a milky white.
Yeah, instead of a picture disc.
And it's what is it? It's 150 gram.
Oh yeah.
Vinyl. So it's on like a very heavyweight vinyl, so they can press the grooves very deep into it, so it plays like nice and loud.
Yeah, that part's dope. And Carl Saff mastered it, and Carl Saff's like the guy to go to if you want to do vinyl, because he has his own record cutter, so he like knows what it's gonna sound like. He's not just guessing.
And the Kid Taco Ultra remix of Long Kiss Goodnight is available now through the Bedtime Magic Bandcamp page.
Yeah, and not on Spotify or anything, because apparently when you get a remix done, there's all these licensing issues. Even though I could go to Johnny right now and be like, Johnny, tell them you said it's okay to put it up online. They like wouldn't let me do it. So.
And how can people follow you guys? What's the best way to find Bedtime Magic?
Oh boy.
We're on the Face book and
Instagrammers.
Yeah, and do you twit, right?
Oh God, no. I tried tweeting for the first month we were a band, and it's just like, forget it. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, I don't do the tweeting.
We don't tweet. The only time I tweet is after a large meal, and not on the internet. And there's also, so we Instagram, we do the Facebooks. We prefer people just email us. It's realbedtimemagic@gmail.com, because I can just forward it to Morgan. You can stop by our houses and say hi, stop by a show.
We can give you our phone number if you want. Although you actually already have our number.
Yeah, you're talking to me right now. They could do what you did.
We're friendly.
Excellent. Yeah, so I went through the email. That seems to be the best way to get in contact with you guys.
Yeah, because what I do is I print out the emails and mail them to myself so the postal service doesn't lose any money. And then once I get it in the mail, I read it. It makes a lot of sense.
Is there anything else you guys want to say?
Thanks for having us on your show.
Yeah, thanks for talking, man. I needed a good conversation, so appreciate it.